On the morning of August 4, 2025, the world of Korean cinema and television was shaken by a heart-wrenching tragedy. Beloved actor Song Young-kyu was found dead inside a parked car in Cheongu, Yongin, Gyeonggi Province, near Seoul. He was just 55 years old. The police confirmed there were no signs of foul play, though investigations were still ongoing. What should have been an ordinary summer morning became one of unbearable grief for countless fans who had grown to love his quiet brilliance on screen. To many, Song Young-kyu wasn't the kind of actor who stole the spotlight. He was seldom the lead star or the one whose face dominated posters. Yet, his impact was deep and lasting. He built a reputation on roles that were subtle but unforgettable, characters who carried pain, history, and truth. He was the weary detective who had seen too much, the quiet father torn between pride and regret, the man whose silence spoke volumes. In every scene, even when standing at the edge of the frame, Song had a presence that demanded attention. Born on April 18, 1970, Song began his career in theater before transitioning into television and film. He never rushed his path to fame. Instead, he worked with a deep respect for his craft, often disappearing into the roles he played. His performance in the 2019 blockbuster Extreme Job is still one of his most recognized. As Chief Choi, he was sharp, grounded, and real, an actor whose precision elevated comedy into something human. Later, his work in Narco Saints and Big Bet showcased his range and maturity. He was the kind of performer who didn't need loud gestures to move an audience. His strength was restraint, his gift was authenticity. That's what makes his sudden death so haunting. Around 8 a.m. on that August morning, an acquaintance found him motionless in his car parked near a residential area in Yongin. There was no visible evidence of violence or self-harm. The police stated there was nothing to immediately suggest foul play, and no note was found. Yet, the unanswered questions left behind weigh heavily on everyone who admired him. News spread like wildfire across Korea, and within hours, fans flooded social media with disbelief, confusion, and sorrow. It wasn't long before people began to remember the difficulties he had faced in the months leading up to his passing. Just 2 months earlier, in June 2025, Song had been involved in a DUI incident. Reports said he had driven while intoxicated, resulting in his driver's license being revoked. He was awaiting indictment and had publicly apologized. But the scandal came at a devastating cost. Productions that had once welcomed him now distanced themselves. He was edited out of scenes, replaced, or dropped entirely from upcoming dramas including The Defects and The Winning Try. Even his anticipated return to the stage in Shakespeare in Love was cancelled. For an artist who had spent his life trying to prove his worth, the shame and silence that followed must have been crushing. The entertainment industry, for all its glamour, can be an isolating place. The glare of public scrutiny is merciless. Forgiveness rarely comes easily. In that unforgiving space, a mistake becomes a shadow that clings no matter how hard one tries to step into the light. And while no one can say what truly happened in Song's final hours, it's hard not to imagine the exhaustion, the fear, the loneliness that might have crept in. Fans who knew him through his work are still trying to process the loss. To casual viewers, he may have been that familiar face who appeared in countless dramas, but to his followers, he was a symbol of resilience and humility. He represented the unsung heroes of the entertainment world, the ones who build stories from the inside out. His performances were never about vanity, they were about truth. He made people feel seen, even when he said nothing at all. That's why his passing hit so deeply. Because in every story he helped tell, there was a trace of our own lives mirrored back at us. When the news broke, tributes poured in online. Fans shared screenshots, favorite quotes, and heartfelt messages. He made small roles unforgettable. He was the quiet strength in every drama. I didn't realize how much I loved seeing him on screen until he was gone. Those words became digital candles in a sea of grief. People didn't just mourn the man, they mourned what he represented: dedication, humility, and quiet artistry in a world obsessed with fame. And yet, beneath that wave of grief lies a deeper fear, a recognition that we've seen this kind of tragedy before. The Korean entertainment industry has lost too many talents to silence, shame, and unspoken pain. In December 2023, Parasite actor Lee Sun-kyun was also found dead in his car, sparking nationwide discussions about mental health, media pressure, and the price of success. Song's death, arriving just 2 years later under similarly unclear circumstances, reopens those wounds. It reminds us of the fragility of those who live their lives under the constant gaze of millions. Behind every performance, every interview, and every carefully curated smile lies a person navigating storms we may never see. Song Young-kyu's death is not just a personal tragedy, it's a reflection of a system that often forgets its own humanity. The spotlight can be warm, but it can also burn. The applause fades, and in the silence that follows, what remains is often loneliness. But even amid the heartbreak, there's something worth remembering. Song's life was not defined by how it ended, but by how he lived, steadily, honestly, and with purpose. He gave himself to his craft completely. He made audiences laugh, cry, and feel. He may not have been the hero, but he made heroes feel real. He may not have always been noticed, but he always mattered. For his family, the pain must be unbearable. His wife and 2 daughters now face an absence that words can't fill. For his colleagues, his empty chair on set will be a reminder of the quiet man who worked tirelessly, who listened more than he spoke, and who gave everything to the art he loved. For his fans, the screen will never feel quite the same again. But beyond the sorrow, there's a legacy, one that can inspire reflection, empathy, and change. As investigations continue, the truth of what happened in that car in Yongin may eventually come to light. But truth, in this case, feels secondary to meaning. What do we learn from this? What do we do with the pain? Maybe it begins with compassion. Maybe it starts when we stop demanding perfection from the people who entertain us. Maybe it's time to give space for imperfection, for redemption, for being human. Song Young-kyu's story deserves more than speculation. It deserves peace. It deserves to be told with the same tenderness he brought to his roles. When we look back on his work, we shouldn't see the tragedy first, we should see the humanity. The laughter in Extreme Job, the moral weight in Big Bet, the silent strength in every line he ever delivered. Those moments are where he still lives. I imagine that quiet August morning in Yongin, the sun slowly rising over the parked car, the world unaware of what it had just lost. The air still, the city just beginning to stir. Somewhere, a television rerun might have been playing a show he once starred in. Somewhere, a fan might have been smiling at a scene he made memorable. And then, within hours, everything changed. It's strange how life can turn like that, from ordinary to irreversible in a heartbeat. And yet, even in death, Song Young-kyu reminds us to pay attention. To the small roles. To the quiet people. To the moments we overlook. Because those are often the ones that carry the most meaning. For those of us who watched him, admired him, or simply recognized him on screen, the grief is real. He wasn't just a character actor. He was a constant. He reminded us that there's dignity in simplicity and truth in restraint. His absence leaves a silence that feels heavier than words. May we honor him not with pity, but with gratitude. May we remember him not as a scandal or mystery, but as an artist who gave his heart to every scene. And may the industry he helped build finally learn to care for the souls behind its stories. Song Young-kyu's car may have gone still that morning, but the world he left behind is still moving, because he was part of it. His performances continue to breathe on screens everywhere, his quiet strength echoing in every role. He may have left us too soon, but his artistry endures. In the end, perhaps that is how he will be remembered, not for how he died, but for how deeply he made us feel while he was here. In the days following Song Young-kyu's passing, the streets of Seoul felt quieter. Maybe it was the weight of collective grief, or maybe it was the silence that falls when the world realizes it's lost something irreplaceable. On fan forums, online communities, and late-night live streams, people kept talking about him, not just as an actor, but as someone who somehow felt familiar. The kind of presence you didn't notice at first, but once gone, you couldn't forget. It's strange how deeply the death of someone we've never met can affect us. Maybe that's what makes actors like Song Young-kyu so powerful. They enter our lives in fragments, in scenes, in quiet expressions, yet they somehow occupy real space in our hearts. When he laughed on screen, we laughed with him. When his eyes dimmed with sadness, it felt like ours did too. His art became a bridge between his world and ours. And now, that bridge feels broken. Fame, in its cruelest form, doesn't heal, it isolates. Song Young-kyu wasn't the first to be swallowed by that isolation. Korea has mourned too many like him. Lee Sun-kyun, Sully, Gu-hara, Moon Bin, names that once made fans smile, now whispered through tears. Each tragedy adds another layer of sorrow to the hearts of those who love K-drama and K-pop. Each one reminds us that behind the image is a person, fragile and human. And that's why Song's death feels so heavy. Because he wasn't just another celebrity. He was someone who built his life on portraying humanity in all its imperfections. He didn't chase the spotlight. He embodied the quiet moments that made stories real. And in doing so, he connected with people who saw a reflection of themselves in his humility. Now, fans are finding ways to honor him. Some are revisiting his dramas, watching his scenes with new eyes, noticing details they missed before. Others are writing letters and messages online, saying things they never had the chance to say. Thank you for your work. Thank you for staying humble. Thank you for making our screens feel alive. It's a bittersweet comfort, knowing that even after his passing, he continues to touch lives. Perhaps that's what legacy truly means, not how long you live, but how deeply you're felt after you're gone. There's an image that keeps replaying in my mind: a quiet night, a parked car, the city lights of Yongin flickering like ghosts through the windshield. In that stillness, I imagine Song Young-kyu at peace, not burdened by judgment, not haunted by mistakes, just still. And maybe, in some way, that peace is what he was looking for all along. But for those of us still here, his departure is a call, a reminder that we must treat those we admire, and even ourselves, with gentleness. The world demands so much, too much sometimes, but kindness costs nothing. Fans have been asking, how do we move on? How do we keep his memory alive? The answer might be simple: by remembering him as he was. By continuing to celebrate the art he gave us. By talking about him, writing about him, keeping his name in conversations not out of pity, but respect. And that's what we'll keep doing, here, on Midnight in Seoul. Because Midnight in Seoul isn't just a channel, it's a space for stories like his. It's where we remember the ones who made us believe in the beauty of Korean storytelling. It's where grief meets gratitude, and where fans come together to heal through the very thing that brought us all here: love for the people behind the screen. If you've ever felt the loss of a favorite actor or idol, if you've ever sat in the dark watching credits roll while tears fell for someone you'll never meet, then you understand what this means. Our stories don't end when the camera stops rolling. Neither do theirs. Song Young-kyu gave us emotion, truth, and heart. And through our memories, he continues to live on. Every time you stream Extreme Job, every time you rewatch Big Bet, every time you see his face appear unexpectedly in an old K-drama clip, he's still there. His craft, his presence, his soul. So let's not let the sadness fade into silence. Let's turn it into remembrance. Let's fill the void with love, with laughter, with stories that keep his light burning. And if you, reading this now, feel the same ache, the same need to hold on to the stars we've lost, then stay with us. Join our community of dreamers, watchers, and believers. Subscribe to Midnight in Seoul, where we keep the legacy of Korea's brightest alive. Because here, every story matters, every life remembered becomes eternal. In a world where fame is fleeting, remembrance is resistance. Let's resist forgetting. Let's resist indifference. Let's keep speaking their names. Song Young-kyu may have left the stage, but his echo lingers in every heart that ever felt something watching him perform. He taught us that real power lies not in standing at the center of the spotlight, but in illuminating the space around others. He showed us that even supporting roles can leave leading impressions. And maybe that's the lesson we all need to carry forward, that life, no matter how small it seems, can still touch millions. As Seoul city lights shimmer through the midnight mist, somewhere a screen glows softly, replaying one of his old dramas. Maybe you'll see him again tonight, standing there, smiling faintly, saying a line that suddenly feels like it's meant for you. Maybe that's his final gift, reminding us that no one is truly gone as long as they're remembered. So let's remember him, deeply, sincerely, and forever. This is Midnight in Seoul, and this story was for him. For Song Young-kyu, whose silence now speaks louder than words. For every fan whose heart broke that August morning. And for every soul who finds solace in knowing that love, once felt, never really fades. Subscribe to Midnight in Seoul, where memories live on, where stories find a heartbeat, and where we'll keep the stars shining, one name at a time. Because here, Even after the curtain falls, the light never truly goes out.